Thank you for listening to Chart Your FI. I'm your host, Chris Elder. And today on Chart Your FI, we have evolved into an interview podcast that talks about goal planning, overcoming the odds, financial independence, and how it's not the end goal, but a means to find your purpose in life. And we talk about the not so common sense things in life. Stand by for the sound of freedom. Before we get to the Chart Your FI episode, I just wanted to do a quick shout out about Return to Roots podcast. It's about retention in the military, transition from the military, and reintegration into the community. This podcast is not just for the service member, but for the family unit as well. Also, anyone that wants to put action to their thank you for your service can find more information on this podcast at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and many other social media networks. Thank you, and listen to the Chart Your FI episode now. Welcome to the show. Today we have Arcy Vazquez, the Eternal Energy Coach. He is a soon to be retired Master Chief Engineerman from the Navy and the founder and CEO of Eternal Energy. Are you ready? Because he's got a lot of energy.
Well, good day to all my eternal energies everywhere. We are on the chart your financial independence with Chris Elder. Just jump right into it. All right, Chris, it's all yours.
Hey man, I appreciate you coming on here. You know, RC, he's got his thing going on, and I think that you guys are going to be pretty excited to hear some of the stuff he's got to say. He's a very high energetic, fast impact kind of person. So I'm really excited to have you on here, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for
Um,
the invitation.
what what made you choose the Navy? Like, where were you at in your life when you're like, hey, I'm going to join the Navy, man? Let's start at that point.
I'm gonna tell you, it's a unique story because growing up in Brooklyn, New York, I was a 7-year-old boy not knowing what the Navy was, and my uncle was going to join the Air Force, and my response to it was, "I'm going to join the Navy." And the funny thing was, when I was a young boy, I used to rock to sleep, and he would say, "You can't join the Navy. You rock when you sleep." So the joke, we were Star Trek fans back there, and he would make this whole story of how they would come up and say, "Captain, the boat is rocking." No, and he would say, "Oh, I know what the problem is." So, I mean, I was telling my whole family at the age of 7 years old that I was going to join the Navy, and that was been my path ever since. Now, coming up in Brooklyn, New York, my mom was a big educator, so she was all about school, so she wouldn't have that. So I actually joined the Navy without her knowing. It got her really upset. She didn't like that too much, but I think it all worked out fine.
You know, it's funny how sometimes whenever we do something and we go against what our parents say, it it's like, man, you know, like here you are, you got an educator that's like, hey, I want you to go to college. I got all these plans. And then bam, you're like, nope, I'm doing something else. And you got to realize, you know, hey, you know, that's actually a great learning moment for us parents. You know, it's
Mhm.
like, look, we could want all we want, right? We could want all we want for our children. But the thing is their passion is their passion. We are not them. They're going to choose their own thing. So what do? Well, our job is to tell them, well, be the best at that.
That's right.
Find what it is. You know, if your boy wants to go do dancing lessons, you know, if your daughter wants to go do football, tell them to be the best. Pour
That's
into
right.
them. Open up opportunities and doors for them to become even better than that. You know, and that's
And
a
what's
lesson.
interesting is, so in 1990, this recruiter kept on calling my house, and I'm like, "Listen, you have to stop calling my house. My mom, I have to go to college." And he would always call me. And one day he was like, "Well, look, what are you going to school for?" said, well, I want to be an engineer. I want to work on airplanes. And he said, it will take you 5 years to work on a plane. I'll get you working on a plane in 8 weeks. I was like, what? So he said, come on down here. So I went on down to the recruiter's office, and sure enough, I left there enlisted. And I got home and told mom, and she was so upset. Now, so when I came in 1990, I got out in 93. And so I went back home, and because it was after the Gulf War, and I went to school. So I did what my mom wanted me to do. I went to RPI. It's one of the better engineering schools in New York, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. And it was a really tough school. But I knew something was missing. I knew that I didn't belong there. So I went right back into the Navy, and it was the best decision I ever made.
And so when you rejoined, what year was that?
I rejoined back in 96. So I got out in
96.
93 and came back in 96.
Damn, man. You got a long, extensive career of being a sailor, man. That is nothing to shake a stick at. That's pretty awesome, man. I'm here with my measly 20 years, man. You got me beat.
No, man. Thank you for your service. I know how tough it is out there. So
Yeah, man. When you talk about the recruiter and he's like, "Yo, I can get you working on jets in 8 weeks," you're like, "Why would I not do that?"
mhm.
I attribute, I was I've been pretty blessed my entire life. Sometimes when I think something's like bad happening, really, like a door closing, two more are opening up. Well, that's always been kind of my story. Something will close, two more will open up.
That's right.
And my recruiter helped me pick which door I was going to go into. And Alvin Lewis, this guy, walked in there and he was just like DJ Groovy Lou, and he's like, he's probably DJing right now, man, on Facebook. If I go on Facebook, I'll probably find him. DJ Groovy Lou.
That's
He's out
awesome.
there. He's still DJing. He's doing what he loves, man. But that guy helped me out so much, getting me into the military because it actually was what I needed. It structured,
Yeah.
gave me that structure that I never had when I was growing up. And it's funny because we always complain about this. Man, we get all these kids, they're not grown up. We get them all grown up and then they leave. You know what I
That's right.
mean? And then they become sailors. We turn kids into sailors.
Yeah. And that's all. That's why I love the Navy, because it I came in as a boy and I'm leaving as a man for sure.
So now you've been in the Navy for a while and you're retiring here in April, correct?
Yes. So my retirement ceremony is actually January 31st. So it's a few weeks away.
Bro, that's so close.
Yeah. Then I'll be on terminal leave, and down in Orlando. And I'm already doing stuff down there. We got things already laid out. So there's no retirement as far as life goes, but it's just kind of just a pause from, a little couple of weeks of just transitioning from the military mindset and going into that civilian sector.
Man, I have a question. Did you take any transitional classes besides the transition assistance program, the require 3 day or the 2 day capstones?
I did the whole thing. So I did the whole tap, the 3-day tap, and I did some workshops. Did the Boots to Business workshop. I did that, and of course the CPO mess. A lot of resources in the mess. People who've been going through taps. So because you can't go through taps just one time and take all the information. There's so much information. So I highly recommend people go at least 2 or 3 times just to kind of grasp it all. But we were on deployment. So I just came back from a 7-month deployment. So that's what's kind of tough, to, do a lot of my stuff. So I'm on scramble mode. But yeah,
Yeah.
but luckily my command, I have a really strong CPOMS right now. So it allowed me to really focus on my transition and get a lot of stuff done this next two
Yeah.
weeks.
You sound like you're pretty blessed. So
I
that's awesome. That's
I
awesome.
am.
So where did you say, hey, like this is what drives me, and now I'm gonna go into being a coach.
Right. So I mean, I've always been focused. I've always been the person that, like, even when I came back into the military, I made Master Chief fairly quick. I just always wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And as things went along, and I was getting the feedback, I just knew I had to just do something more bigger. I had to do something that was just gonna like stamp it, like stamp it, you know. And so when I was a Master Chief, and I felt it was coming to a close, like how can I take this experience and help other people, realize, what they have to offer. I see a lot of sailors, kind of go into that zombie mode where they're just going through life and not figuring everything out. And when I get talking to them and doing mentorship, I see that spark in their eyes, and that kind of fueled me to keep this going. And so I say, you know what? I'm just going to dedicate, my passion of helping people and just make it a life mission.
How'd you go about starting the company up?
Yeah, so it was in 2017, and I was in Bahrain, and I had a friend name was Alonzo Evans. He did pass away, so rest in peace, brother, senior chief. And we used to talk a lot. And in Bahrain, there's a lot of time to kill down there because there's not much to do. And he was a Mason. I am not a Mason. And I asked all these questions. I was very intuitive, like, hey, ask him a lot of questions. And he would say, hey, I want to give you this book. Just read this book. I'm like, all right, well, I didn't read the book. I was just like, whatever. And I came back to the States, and I was having a beer. I was having a beer in 2017. And I found out he had passed away. And I was his Master Chief, and he had a lot of headaches. So when I heard he passed away of an aneurysm, it kind of hit me really, really strong. I was like, my goodness, that really, it hit me hard. So I remember having the book up in my bedroom. So I went up and I started reading the book. And not to exaggerate at all, I read a few pages of the book, and at that moment, I just felt, I felt something. I felt some kind of presence, some energy. And that day, I stopped drinking. I poured the beer out. I read the book. The book is called New World Order by Ralph Epperson. And I did my own independent research. And ever since then, it hasn't stopped. Everything I do now just comes from a different place. All the videos I do, all the messages I give out, I do a lot of research, but most of it, after I say the video and I look back at it, I'm like amazed, like where that stuff's coming from. Like it almost feels surreal, like the information is coming to me and I'm able to share it.
I have actually, thank you for sharing that memory, man. What was your friend's name again? One more time.
His name was Alonzo Evans. He was an
Alonzo.
Engineman Senior Chief.
Man, I had a buddy of mine, uh, had a brother of mine in Guantanamo Bay, and we didn't really do much other than guard work and drink and bowl. So, whenever we weren't doing guard work, man, Chris and I spent like a majority of our time together, man. Like that was like my brother. Um, he we would play catch out in the desert, or the desert kind of area. We'd throw the ball around. We'd bowl. We would drink. We'd do a lot of stupid stuff together too. Just
Right.
just uh we had a lot of fun, man. Like, and we would spend hours and hours and days and weeks, and like that was my buddy, man. Um, I had a couple others that were in that group too, but when I was in Japan in July of last year, July 2022, I was meeting up with a buddy of mine who's also in Guantanamo Bay, and he was my roommate. And we were talking, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, man, I can't believe Chris died." And I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? Which Chris?" And then he's like, "Chris Enos." And bro, we were drinking. I haven't drank since I found that out, man.
Isn't that amazing?
I just, it's like, bro, no, that's it. I'm done. And ever since then, man, I've literally had this, I don't, I know that feeling, man, this energy flowing into me. A really good friend of mine, Alicia, Medina, who's my, Kagmo's wife, gave me a book. It is This Naked Mind. It's a really good read. It talks about alcohol and all that stuff. And I was reading it, man. I'm like, I don't like alcohol. I don't like the taste of it. And I was getting this extra energy from not doing it. And then I was like, as I moved from Japan to San Diego, because I had to move early because of medical issues. So I'm going through like a medical process, and it's a mess. But not drinking has given me energy and time to focus on what's important to me. I think if I were to drink, because drinking to me, man, and I'm not saying anything wrong with drinking. It was just the way I was drinking.
Yeah.
I wouldn't drink except for occasionally. I would have a beer, and then every once in a while I would just go too far. And then the next day I'd be in a world of hurt. And then not only am I messing up my time while I'm drinking, but then there's all times the time I was drinking, and times it by like three, and that's how much on the backside I'm wasting too.
Yeah.
So that's where we were wasting our energy.
I would say, as you're telling me your story, sharing your story, I had goosebumps because me and you described the same exact experience. It really is amazing.
Yeah, man. It's crazy because it's like it's all these things, man. How we're connected. And he was an MM as well. And I actually have his Navy Achievement Medal with all my other awards
That's
still,
awesome.
because it came to me. And so I have that, like, dude, it was kind of like it was a whole bunch of different stuff, man. It was like guilt from not keeping in touch with them. But you know how it is, man. We move, and we just have to keep moving forward with the mission and mission. And we forget about some of our brothers that we forge these bonds that, like, hey, if Chris were to walk in here, man, he would start talking shit to me, and we would go throw a ball together right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like,
Yeah.
it's just, you click right back together.
I
And
also would say the whole eternal energy thing really turned my life away from a destructive type of thinking to just a healing phase where my wife, that relationship is awesome. Me and my kids are awesome. Just everything just plays out really well when you engage in good energy. Everything just kind of follows suit. And when I was, although back in the day I wasn't a violent drunk, I was just really distracted by the alcohol back then. And now that, like you said, that part is gone, I have more time and energy for my family. So
yeah. So I like I like talking about how we came. We talked about your time in the Navy. Now we're talking about your evolution into really running your eternal energy. Um, where so I kind of want to rewind it a little bit, man. Where
yeah.
where did you come from? You said you were from Brooklyn, New York.
Hmm.
So
Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
how was growing up on the streets of Brooklyn, man? You miss it?
I definitely don't miss it, but I wouldn't change anything because it definitely helped me out, to navigate through life now. It was tough. I mean, I was there when rap first started. I walked amongst the rappers. I mean, I've seen Dougie Fresh battle one of my friends on the beatbox right there, on the streets. We used to drive by and see Run DMC on the streets. So back when rap just started, I was there. I was right there in Bedford Stuyvesant, where Biggie Smalls is from. So it's now I will say, what was weird was the friends you thought you had would be the friends that would try to rob you at nighttime. And then the next day they're your friend again. It was
like, what the hell happened there, man?
Yeah, it just I've had for real quick, I had a story where we were playing stickball between the projects, and I was playing third base, and then my friend Kenny was on third base, and he got shot in the back with a 22, and he said, "No, hey Arcy, something hit me in the back." I was like, "Someone threw a rock and hit me in the back," and I was like, "Kenny, stop playing. If you get off the base, I'm gonna tag you out." He's like, "No, for real, look," and he had a hole in his back. So we laid him down, and remember we picked him up, and I don't know how his mom knew, but his mom came running out of the projects and was like, lay him down, because the 22 round travels through the body. So I was that close, to being shot, and that type of stuff was normal back then. you know
Man, that's you know that kind of stuff is like what forges us into the men, women, that we become later on. It's those hard things, man. It's like I talk to people all the time, pretty much saying, hey, you know, that forges you into what you are now. But here's the most important thing, and someone really wise told me, it's like if you're always reflecting on your, sorry if I just whacked my mic, but if you're always reflecting on your past and then always looking towards your future, you're never in the moment.
yeah.
So,
Hmm.
knowing about those things, but taking that off and being present in a moment, it's kind of like one of the most important things that I've heard in
Yes.
that kind of moment.
Mhm. Absolutely. When I think about, I heard that same exact thing. And with my experience with, when you think about the past as depression, you think about the future is anxiety. But one thing also to understand is if you're always involved in what you're doing, you really have no time to think about the past or the future. So being in the present moment is actually focusing on your passion and what you're doing. Like right now, you're doing your podcast, and right now, my eternal energy. I'm so entrenched in perfecting this that I have no time to worry about the future, or worry about what happened in the past, because I'm so entrenched in what's going on and what I'm doing today.
See, a lot of people, what they do is they focus solely on the moment, but they never take a moment to write down what they want for their future. And
Yes.
you gotta speak things into reality. And if you don't speak things into reality, by i.e., in doing vision boards and writing down what you want to do, just like your finances, that's financial independence. Say you want financial independence, write your budget down.
That's right.
Budget savings. It's simple, and that's why everybody's like, oh, I thought this was a financial show. No, it's a mindset show.
Yes. And about speaking things into reality, it's actually the action is what's speaking. So if you want to say, speak like your vision board, like you could put the vision board up, but are your actions aligned to your board? Like
Mm.
everything that I do on my videos, things that I say, like I actually apply that stuff. So everything that I'm gonna say today, or you're gonna say, no one, it's nothing new. Nothing's new under the sun. We've all heard it before. And
Amen,
the
brother.
only difference between people who speak a good game and people who are actually successful are the ones that are successful are applying the information. They believe in the information. And in the Navy, we call it op test. Let's op test this stuff. And what I found that the more I dig into applying this information, uh, the the great feedback I'm receiving, and I, because you always hear these conversations, you hear them, in the scuttlebutt, you hear them in the mess, and everyone speaks words of wisdom, they, and they're all right. I mean, they all have great, words to say, but when you look at the lives that they live, there's the disconnect.
You're like, man, this guy that just told me, hey, write down my finances. And the dude doesn't even know, hasn't written a budget in over a year and a half. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
and here's a secret. When it comes to finances, my wife and I do it. Yeah, my wife does the majority of it because I've always been gone. But we've
Mhm.
always agreed where our finances have gone.
That's
You
right.
know, we clearly like, hey, this month we want to pay off this. For the next 3 months, we want our finances to look like this. Guess what? For the next 3 months, our finances look like this. You know what I'm saying? Like we do such a great job writing it down, and then we're planning 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Like, hey, every
That's
year we
right.
sit down, we go, what's our goal?
Well, what's amazing about this information that we're speaking of is when you apply the information, things fall into place kind of automatically. So before I went down this path, um, my finances weren't as good as they are now. I mean, I owned houses back then, but now that I've been doing what I'm doing, I own my own homes, right? So I have a home in Orlando on the lake, over a $500,000. I mean, there's no mortgage. My cars are paid off and everything, and all I've been doing is just applying the information, living a life of responsibility. I've been looking at my comforts of life. Oh, no, what am I wasting my time on, or how am I engaging my time? You know, what am I thinking about? And I, I don't analyze too much, but I'm just really self-aware of how I'm spending my time, what I'm thinking about, what I'm working on. Is there a balance? And that's where I stay. And that's where I stay. And by staying there, things like the law of attraction,
Oh yeah.
right? So I've applied that. I hear it all the time. And does that stuff even work? But you have to apply it. And once you start applying this type of stuff every second of the day, things start to unfold for you in a way that it really is. It's amazing that it works.
And you're right, man. Like the law of attraction. It's you got people like Buddha that say stuff like that. You got the Bible. It's literally in there. Those who have will get more. Those who have not will lose more. It's like there are so many different verses out there that literally say the law of attraction um, plays into things. So it's like, man, when you start visualizing things and you start not just budgeting your money, but budgeting, I would
That's
argue
right.
is even more important because you can get money back.
That's right.
You can't get your time back.
Hmm.
That's the most
Now,
valuable asset we all have.
absolutely. Now, if you could look at your money as like your time. So you'll spend, for example, you go to Starbucks, spend $5 on a cup of coffee. You'll go to 7-Eleven and spend $3 on chips. Well, look at your time that way. Like, so as you go through your life and you look watching TV, or you're, scrolling through your social media, how much time are you using on that stuff? So it's okay to watch a movie and it's okay to look at social media, but are you making a big deposit? Right? How big is that deposit? And how you gonna replenish it? So you have to be aware of how you're spending your money, but spending your time, because time is money, they say, right? But I kind of use that. So I'm when I'm going to my social media, I'm just aware of how much time I'm using there, and then I'll read a book. And then even doing productive things, you have to be careful with, because you have people who read books all day long. So now what are they ignoring? Are they ignoring their families, right? So it's all about, the time spent, the deposits you make, how you're gonna replenish that time.
And yeah, time is money. Money is your energy. Think
Yes.
about it. Think about it because if you equate, let's say you want to think about monetarily, you want to think about energy wise, like imagine you had a little monitor and you could see when your time is running out, and you have to recharge. I think they made a movie about this, and I can't remember the name of it. I think Justin Timberlake was in it, where you had to get more time.
Yes, I've seen that
Yeah,
about a year ago. It's a good
yeah,
movie.
yeah. It's a good movie, and it's got a really,
Might be called Out of Time. I don't know.
you know, man, I'm really good at misquoting things. So out of time, yeah, that sounds probably. I'll Google it
But
here in a second, um, but imagine if you were able to see how much time you had left. You know, imagine if you were able to go, oh, okay, today I'm at 100%. Well, your time is your energy level. And if you don't spend your time correctly in the right places, you're gonna be missing out on things. So it's like time with your family. You're never gonna get that back. You know,
Mhm.
you cannot rewind the clock on your children. You only have 365 days out of the year, right? And how many times? And you have your children for 8 years, right? So 365 times 18, 6,570 years or days, right? You know, after the first 5 years, bam, it's down to it's down to 4,000. It's crazy.
Yes,
You only have so many days to influence these children to become full adults, and you'll realize. And honestly, that's like been kind of like the biggest grower for me, is by growing them. It's like my wife's like, "Well, how come you don't do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, why don't I do that?" You know what I mean? It's like, oh, yeah, yeah, I should do that too.
well,
And
I think that that's what death does for us. That's what a dying is. People say, if you could live forever, like, would you? But the perspective I use is, because we or die, we had the urgency to get things done. If you were going to live forever, there would be no urgency. So when you look at the day, how the day goes, there's just so much time in the day. So the urgency behind that to get things done plays a role in that.
hey, right. I'm looking this. It's In Time.
In time.
Yeah,
Okay.
In Time.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good movie. If you're gonna look at about like life and all that crazy stuff, you get past the fact that it's kind of cheesy a little bit, but it's really a good book.
Mhm.
So or not. I think it is a book, but it's also a good movie. I meant to say. Sometimes I do that, man. I'll look at something and then I'll say what I'm looking at. And then you also mentioned the whole entire book thing, man. I had a buddy of mine come on, uh, uh Trevor, Trevor Maxwell, and he was talking about books. He's like, man, it's not about the quantity of books that you read; it's about what you do with that book once you read it.
That's right. That's right. That's powerful.
And I listen to books. I have my books that I listen to that just let me kind of live like a movie in my head while I'm going for a walk. And then I listen to those books where I'm like, wow, this is really powerful thinking. Like even
Hmm.
listening to David Goggins or Cameron Haynes. You know what I did after I listened to them? I
Mm,
enrolled in a marathon.
that's right.
I
That's right.
I took action on it. I started walking more. I started saying, hey, you know, uh, so what? You have a broken ear, you have migraines, you get vertigo really bad. So what? Get out there and start walking. You can't run, you could walk. Go out there and walk. You can't
That's
you
awesome.
can't you can't walk, or you could crawl. You better get out there and start crawling. You know, or go swimming or do something. Get your butt out there and quit saying poor me and get out there and do it. And that's what David Goggins just really emphasizes. And when I'm listening to him, my life story lines up
Mm,
a lot with his. And I was like, holy crap, man, I'm not the only one. And then he was making me remember things. It's crazy how that happens when you start listening to people's stories and stuff like that. You start
mm,
unlocking things out of your own past.
that's right.
And sometimes it's good to know that, because then you could identify what you're going to do in your future. So when
Hmm.
you're in the present, you don't slip back into the same routine.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that, that's where these books are so
So,
important.
so I'm gonna share with you something. Now you know the whole David Goggins thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you hear a lot of motivational speakers right now, the big trend is discipline, right? And they say that discipline is the driving force behind motivation. So you look at social media, that's what they're all saying. So I'm gonna drop a video out probably in the next couple of weeks. I'm gonna go a few steps deeper into that because I believe there's things that trigger discipline. So we all know based on all these very smart motivators out there that they're saying without discipline, there is no motivation. So, but what fires up discipline, right? What gets discipline going? And my belief, there's two steps before that. So the one step before discipline is curiosity. And the step before curiosity is belief. So it all starts in your belief system. So once you strongly believe in something, you start becoming curious about it. And that curiosity starts your discipline, and that discipline gets you motivated. And that's been how my whole life's been playing out. I've become so curious to what drives humans' purpose and what's it mean to be a human being and what's it mean to interact with different people that has fueled my discipline to get up every day and get involved.
You know, I like the whole entire belief, because if you don't, the belief and the curiosity to continue to like to look further into it, it's kind of like, hey, we all you shoot, right? You've shot before, you qualified, Navy pistol, Navy rifle, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And did you just shoot wildly?
No.
Did you just go up to that line and just go pew pew,
Right.
try not to
Right.
piss off the gunner mate?
That's right.
No, man, you had a target. You believed in the target that you were shooting at. You had a belief system that what you were doing, like you have that belief that you're going to go out there and you're going to hit that target. And then you're like the curiosity part. I like it, man, because then you're like, well, shoot, how does this gun work? How does it do it? I line it up, dry fire a couple times, then bam.
Mhm.
Then discipline is going out there and just keep hammering, like Cameron Haynes would say. But you know, that right there, the belief, man. It's like, hey, would I have thought, and if you would have told me 5 years ago, Arcy, you would have told me that I was going to be a podcaster 5 years ago, I would have been like, you're smoking crack.
Right. Right.
And here I am,
Yeah, you're
podcasting.
doing it. You're doing it, brother.
And you tell me in 5 years that I'm going to have 2 books written. I'd be like, cool, challenge accepted. I got you.
Do it.
I believe I'm going to have that done. When you have the belief, you start looking into it.
That's right.
Like today, I was looking up YouTube videos on how to better write down my thoughts and stuff like that. I was investigating stuff. I'm writing content. I'm writing blogs. I'm doing podcasting. Believe it or not, podcasting is a great way to get some content going for your book,
Absolutely.
because you have a recorded way of what you're saying, and then you just get some, go out there, find one of those programs that do all typing stuff, and you just, there you go. You got all your content. And then spending the time, the first time that you write something down, it's not right. Second time, it's kind of better. Third time, yeah. Fourth time, hey, it looks like a sentence. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Mhm.
the the discipline part. The curiosity. I believe the
Mhm.
curiosity where I'm looking at the discipline part where I just keep going at it, and I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid what I sound like.
That's
I
right.
get compliments all the time. Oh, hey, you have a great podcast voice. And I'm like, I hate the sound of my voice.
Right. I think we
I
all
got
do. We
hungry.
all hate our own voice.
Yeah, it's like I want to hear some psychology on this. Why do we hate our voice? Is it
Right.
because it's our biggest critic?
No, that's a good question.
Yeah.
But I'm
Oh
the same
man.
way. I'll play a video and I'll like, oh my goodness, that sounds terrible. And people will say, no, it sounds fine. I'm like, okay, if you say so.
Well, I love your opening. You're like, are you ready? All right.
Well, tomorrow I'm gonna drop what is your responsibility. So I've been advertising that big time. So tomorrow I'm gonna release that video. Hopefully it catches really good because that's the second category of the triple stack model. So during this journey, I've developed my own leadership model.
There you
I mean,
go.
from scratch, you know. So I could because if you were to go to Google and type in leadership, you have millions of entries in there. And if someone's coming up in the ranks or trying to be an influencer out, in the community, trying to find your own leadership style could be very stressful. So my triple stack leadership model helps people to simplify leadership and helps them to feel comfortable from a place where they're coming from. So we broke it down to three categories. The comforts of life. Like, how are you spending your time, right, with your comforts? And it could be anything. It could be wanting praise, a comfort could be. Watching movies all the time, reading books, playing golf, whatever it is, whatever you go to when you want to escape the present moment, it's like a comfort. Even hobbies, right? The second category is responsibility. Like, what is your responsibility, as a person, as an individual? Because think about it, for you to be sitting there right now, a lot has had to happen in the past. I mean, thousands of years ago, all that had to play out really good. People not dying, people having babies, all that had to happen for you to be sitting there. So now, since your DNA has survived, since you've made it this far, what is your responsibility? And the third category is mental stress, no, mental compass. And mental compass is, where do your thoughts rest? Like, as you go through the day and you're really busy, then when you're not busy and you kind of fall back, where are your thoughts falling back to? Are you encouraging yourself? Are you doubting yourself? No, and I think we all go through that. And sometimes we get misled by, and no fault to anybody else, but they tell you to silence your thoughts, go meditate and try to quiet your thoughts. And that's impossible. I mean, if you try to sit there and silence your thoughts, you can't do it. So my approach to that is, become a friend to yourself, be more kind to yourself and understand that your thoughts are going to move freely. And it's okay. It's just, what are you going to entertain? So, and I use the analogy in the shark mindset video of a shark, because a shark must swim aimlessly, because if it stops swimming, it will die. Your thoughts will continue to move until you die. Now, a shark will react to a certain direction based on the smell of blood. So when they smell blood, they focus. So with the shark mindset, your blood scent could be things that are meaningful to you, your kids, your marriage, your relationships. So now, as your mind is moving aimlessly, and then your mind thinks about your kids, that's a blood scent. I'm gonna go there. When your thoughts are going crazy and just let it go, and a thought of your wife pops up, I'm gonna go there. So it's not taking the bait, because those negative thoughts are not going anywhere. And then the joke I used in the video was, we all know what happens when the shark takes the bait. It winds up on someone's boat. right? No, so tomorrow's video and what is your responsibility? I'm gonna go into that as far as like as an individual, as a human being, on this planet, a lot has had to happen for you to be here. But what is your responsibility to humanity? No, what is it? And so hopefully it catches tomorrow. Um, it's I think it's a powerful message. And I'll wake up tomorrow morning. I'm gonna go run like 5 miles, 6 miles,
Oh yeah,
and I'm gonna drop the video.
nice. I found that I wake up around 5 o'clock sometimes, 5, 6 o'clock. It just depends on how my body's feeling. But I'm waking up most of the time 5, and I'm going for a walk. And the further I walk, I come back. I do my physical therapy every morning. I'm stuck in a physical therapy thing where I have to do it all the time. All the injuries. If you're out there listening and you're military, get your stuff documented. Um, but I find walking and moving around has just opened up my mind more than a lot of people would realize. That moving around time, I don't have any digital distractions other than I have a book playing, and then sometimes I'll just go silent, and I'll leave the headphones in because it completely cuts off all the sound, and then
Mhm.
I'm left alone with my thoughts. And you're right, you got to be your own best friend, man. You gotta flip that. You gotta flip that negativity around. And hey, you're never gonna get rid of all the negativity. I don't care who you are. You're gonna have that thought. Oh man, I could have done that better. Not very negative, but hey, I could have done it better. You know what I'm saying? So you got to start learning how to give yourself compliments, like you're saying, man. That's
Mhm.
so deep, man. That shark mindset, man. I watched that.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
watched it.
appreciate
I
that.
watched the little thing that you were putting on there. I was like, man, yeah, man.
Yeah, and the reason that stuff is so powerful, Chris, is because you can't draw blood from a stone. And what I mean by that is you cannot love anyone any more than you love yourself. So if I don't love myself fully, then it's naive of me to think I could love someone else fully. If I cannot trust myself, then I'm going to have trust issues with other people. So, how we go through life is we practice on ourselves. We earn our own trust, we earn our own love. And once we're able to come to peace with that, then we kind of divert that energy outside of us. And I've learned that. I've learned, back in the day when I tell my kids, I used to go, many years ago, and I still remember this. I put my daughter to sleep, and I have alcohol in my breath, and and she would just say, Dad, every time you kiss me goodnight, I smell alcohol, and and all that memory playback, that feedback, that feedback loop. And now I understand what she was saying. So how can I say I love you, unconditionally, if I am living a destructive lifestyle myself? If I'm not loving myself fully, how do I even know what it means to love you that way? So that's the whole thing of applying this info. So when I say applying the information and living the life of law of attraction, I'm speaking literally.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's heavy, man. That
Yeah.
like that law of attraction, it's real. Um, I have a buddy of mine that has this entire workshop, and kind of bleeding into my other podcast. It's called Return to Roots. It's retention, transition, and reintegration. It's releasing February 15th, with
Nice.
the first episode of Hey, Who Are We, and all that stuff, and then that actual episode will release on the 17th of February for the first veteran resource content.
That's awesome. Good luck,
And
brother. That's awesome.
and the class that he's talking about is reboot. It's like the main. It's a boot camp for becoming a civilian. It's rebrand, relearn, repurpose, and the great thing about that is he talks about exactly what you say, exactly what you're saying, and there's power in that, and that's the reason why he talks about it. But your stuff as well is available for people that aren't. This is for veterans that are getting out, and it's only a very small crowd that could even get into these. And you're offering this because people don't need to hear it when they're getting out. They need to hear it now. They need to hear it
That's right.
right here and then. They hear what you got going on, man. So, do
So,
you do you do any any kind of trainings or anything like that, man?
yes. So on deployment, we were just deployed on Arlington, I was doing deck plates with Master Chief every Tuesday. So every Tuesday, I'd have, because I'm also a John C. Maxwell teacher, life coach. I was trained by them, by that team. So I use all that. I use his whole library that costs over $5,000, right? And I gave it to the sailors for free. Like, I mean, I was just like, here it is. I have the whole library, and I'm gonna teach you it every Tuesday. Now I would just break down about an hour and a half of leadership concepts, resources. I use the 15 laws of oh goodness, the
Oh,
15 laws of habits, I think it was.
yeah, yeah.
And I had great feedback. And then now we're doing free workshops every month in Orlando at the library. So I got that approved. So again, just giving back, just giving people who don't have the resource to get that leadership conversation going. We're gonna go down to the library, and I could max get 50 people in there, and I'm just gonna keep on just feeding humanity, just feeding people this information, because the more that people become a better version of themselves, the better our communities get, the better work environments become. So it's just getting the information out, and then the feedback would be, you know, as our kids grow up and integrate with this world, the world be a better place for everybody.
Exactly, man. You know, man, that's so awesome. The have that ability to do that, and not only are you just reserving it for the sailors, but now you're bringing it out to everybody. You found something that you're just like, wow, this is what does it for me.
Yeah,
Um,
it does.
and I I piloted a program over here at HSC3. Even though I'm like rarely around because of all my medical appointments. I have a lot of medical appointments. I I piloted a program. Right now, I'm calling it GRIT. Genuine resiliency, intermittent training. So it's where I bring nonprofit organizations, Fleet and Family, Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, veteran based companies that are trying to help veterans, resources, bringing these things in one time a week for 2 hours. I bring a free resource in that kind of talks about all the stuff that we should know about.
Hmm.
And like, hey, I had the VA, they were talking about disability, like what you need to do. So instead of hearing about it when you're about to retire, we're bringing it in now. So
Nice.
it's funny because it's just like grown. And I even have I have JOs saying, "Hey, senior, thanks for setting this up," and I'm like, "It's not a big deal,
Hmm.
it just kind of common sense." And it's funny how that's grown, and now I have the Fleet and Family knocking on my door. I have community leaders knocking on my door. I have like people knocking on my door saying, "We want to model something like this."
Wow, that is
So
so awesome.
yeah, and it's funny because deck plate, with the Master Chief, but you know, that should be continued on. And I know that's what the intent with programs like Sailor 360 was, but a lot of that stuff just gets too tied up in the bureaucracy.
It does. I did a couple of posts on YouTube when I first started out, and I was getting some negative feedback from people disagreeing with what I was saying. So
Good. That's
I
what I
took
say.
out. So what I've done is, if you've noticed now, when I do my stuff, I try to separate myself from the military,
Yeah.
just, just out of respect, of course, and just not to get that level of, you know, negativity.
You know, I I don't talk about chart your FI with my sailors. I don't. Some people are like, man, why don't you talk about it? They hear about it because they see my Facebook. They're gonna hear about it. If they ask me, I'll be like, yeah, you can take a look at it. I interview random people that have success in their lives. You might find some success or glean something out of it, just like you would any other podcast.
That's right.
But I don't advertise towards my sailors because I too not receive negative feedback, but I too believe that, hey, I'm trying to separate the military from my personal stuff. But when I piloted that grit class, I found that it gave me more um, fulfillment than anything else I've done in a long time. I
Mm,
was like, why would I not do this for the rest of my life? And it
nice.
means that's in a podcast. Why would I not do something like that? And that's where we developed that return to root stuff as well. So, and it sounds like deck plates with match teeth turned into something more and more, and it just compounds and compounds and compounds.
Yeah. So when you said a little while ago that Fleet and Family was knocking on your door, so I just remember, you ever heard of Billy Carson,
Billy Carson.
Forbidden Knowledge,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
the Anunnaki, and just
yeah.
the all that stuff? Well, they reached out to me.
What?
Yes, yes, Forbidden Knowledge. You know, Billy Carson.
Dang, man.
I know. So I was on Instagram and he said, "Hey, Eternal Coach, hit me up, inbox me right away." So I inboxed him. So today I'm waiting for a reply. That's exciting. I couldn't imagine collaborating with Billy Carson.
Bro,
Yeah, they have their own TV show. They have, I mean, they're everywhere.
yeah, man. And it's funny how as you as you go further on, like, and no matter what you're doing, right? No matter what you're doing, if you put yourself out there and you consistently keep hammering away at it, you keep going and you keep going and keep going, things just seem to happen, but it's really because you were consistent enough, to continue. And I know
Yeah.
some days you probably looked at yourself in the mirror, you're like, am I fucking crazy? Am I crazy?
It's actually a compliment. It's actually a
Yeah.
compliment. So it's a
Yeah.
compliment.
Like,
So,
am I crazy? Because I think I'm crazy.
you
And I'm
have to
cool.
be.
And I'm cool with it. I'm
Yeah, you
cool
have
being
to be.
crazy.
You have to be obsessed in what you believe in.
Yeah, man. That's
And I think the obsession of your belief creates the curiosity for the discipline.
yeah,
That's
man.
all it stems from.
And that law of attraction, man. Here we are. Law of attraction. It's attracted both of us to come on
That's right.
here and make some great content, man.
I hope
Uh,
so.
bro, I I think that you are going to inspire some greatness out there. You've already inspired greatness. You could just continue inspiring greatness out there, man. And I really do think that this is me building a tribe. So I build a tribe of people, get the right people on here, and it doesn't have to be military. You heard the last guy. He's a 30-year-old, but he's got the right tribe mindset, and that's
That's
what this
right.
is. We all have our things that make our money, but that's not what drives us to do the things. We do it because we have a service. We have a
Hmm.
service mentality. We love serving other people, man.
That's right.
And brother, it was good to have you on this, man. Um, I do want to ask you a couple questions. You ready for them?
Yeah, go shoot. What you got?
If, okay, so I got this time machine, man, and you walk into it, flashback to 18 years, or flashback when you were 18 years, not 18 years, but when you were 18 years old. What were you going to say to yourself, man?
I would say be careful. I've been lucky. I've had some close calls. Um, I don't regret anything. I think everything I've been through since I was 18 years old has made me to the person I am right now. So they're all in my toolbox. So I don't want to take anything away. I think thinking about the question, I would tell myself, don't sweat it. You'll be all right. I think I had a lot of depression, anxiety when I was younger. I was just worried. I mean, coming from Brooklyn, New York, and and my mom being an educator, and me not living up to her standard back then. I was always felt bad about that. I always tell myself, just be careful and stay the course.
I like it, man. You know, telling yourself, hey, just keep going, man. That's important. And if you're a younger listener, it's okay if you like, hey man, am I making the right decision? Yes,
That's right.
you're making the right decision. Keep moving forward. Keep
Be
having,
careful.
yeah, and just do that thing that drives you, Um, my next question is, what book or podcast do you recommend to people?
Well, this podcast, of course.
Oh yeah, I like
The Chart Your Financial Independence with Chris Elder.
it.
I gotta get that name right.
No,
But I
you're
would
good.
say also the Evolution podcast with Jeff Bayless. He's really good. I was on his podcast. He's strong podcast there. He was a chief, then he was a lieutenant, then he was back down to a chief. So a very interesting story there. And it's called the Evolution Podcast. I mean, you should probably reach out to him. I think you guys have the same personality, so it's real cool. Now, the book I recommend is, I would say, Michael Singer, Untethered Soul. That book is powerful. I mean, I got that book all highlighted. And then he has a spin-off to that book that kind of talks about his life when he was writing that book. And I forget the name of that one is maybe your experiment or something like that. But they're in the bookstore. But Untethered Soul by Michael Singer is a powerful book. I recommend that one.
Nice, man. I have like this gigantic library list that's gonna make anybody like go like, oh my goodness, it's a lot of
That's
books to
right.
read. And and but the thing is these books, they contain knowledge. They contain little nuggets here and there. And like I said earlier, it's not about the quantity of books that you read. It's about what you do whenever you get them. It's what you do with that knowledge. Are you making yourself better?
You know what's awesome too? Tell me if this is true or not. When you read those books, it kind of opens up doors in your brain that makes you interpret the book in your own unique way. Like the book New World Order with Alf Epperson, the way I interpreted that book, it doesn't say specifically what I believe in, but how the book was written, how it changed my life and my interpretation of it. And I've learned that right now. I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Power of Full Engagement. So I started this book. It's about 50 pages in. Another powerful. But if I gave this book to you to read, we would both interpret it totally different. And I think that's the beauty in reading books because it opens up these doorways that are unique to you.
That goes into a perspective thing that I'm always talking about. If we were to all walk into the Chiefs Club together, you're literally going to have a different perspective than I am.
That's right.
First, there's your height. Second, I'm wearing sunglasses, so everything I see is polarized. You know what I'm saying? So it's like everything, and even down to like, hey, how the food that I ate this morning may make me nauseous, so I'm not paying attention to the mess in the corner. You know what I'm saying? It's like everything boils down to your perspective, and your perspective is actually ultimately in your hands. You
Mhm.
control your perspective.
Mhm.
Something's not happening to you, it's happening for you.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So if you take it around, when something bad happens, it may be something bad, but it's another door is opening somewhere. You
What's the
just can't
message behind it?
exactly. You just can't see that door yet.
And that's very difficult. That's easy to say and hard to experience and hard to allow to happen.
Yes.
But that's the growth process because we all go through trials and tribulations, and when we're in the midst of these trials and tribulations, it's very hard to apply this stuff. But you have to trust. You have to trust the information. You have to have faith in the information, and stay the course.
Yeah, man. I get it. You gotta stay that course. And it's just like, hey, even though, like a lot of people may not realize after I record, I have to turn off all the lights and I have to like close my eyes for a little bit. That's
Wow.
how intense my pain gets. But I still push through it because I know there's a door somewhere and I'm looking for it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
brother.
love it. I love it,
Yeah, man.
man.
Thanks for coming on again, man. Anytime you want to come on and you want to do like a live episode or something like that, we could do anything, bro. You let
That'd
me
be
know,
awesome.
man. I'm down
That's
to do
awesome.
anything, brother. Thanks again. Like I said, you're part of the tribe now. I appreciate it. And yeah, man. If you need anything, just hit me up, brother.
Hey, you be good. Thank you again. And Eternal Coach out.
I got a saved round and alibi here. It is again Return to Roots. It is releasing February 15th, 2023. It will be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and many other social media websites. Please get out there, listen to it. It can help people in the long run. Our goal is to reduce homelessness and also suicides within the community. We are going to be talking about retention in the military. We're going to be talking about transition from the military and reintegration into the community. This podcast is not just for the service members, but also for the family unit dependents. Anybody that wants to help or say thank you for your service and put it to action, listen to the podcast. It will help you find ways to do so. You guys have a great day. Chart Your Fire is not an affiliate and does not represent the views of the Department of Defense and or the Department of the Navy. All views are that of the host and the guests that are brought onto the show. This information is meant to be in general, so do your own research before you implement it. This is not financial advice and is meant for educational purposes. If you need financial advice, look it up on Mass Chief Google or hire a reputable financial advisor. Alone we are weak. Together we are strong. In unity there is strength.